Hi, this is Komo Sandhu, and in this presentation, we will be going over various phones and their specifications, which could help consumers in picking out their new phones. First, we will go over types of utility for users. The first type of user is high consumption users, which require high RAM and good battery life. And for these types of users, the OnePlus 10T 5G phone seems to be a great option, which has high RAM and a good battery capacity. And we have content creators that require a good front and rear facing camera. For front facing cameras, the Huawei Nova 10 Pro seems like a great option at 60 megapixels. And for rear facing cameras, there are three options that all have over 100 megapixels. Furthermore, out of these top 10 phones, there are a lot of good options for low and high budget phones. And so users can also find a good phone with peace of mind. Lastly, we have gamers that require good screen size and good screen resolution. And we can see that most of the phones listed are above average screen size of 6.4 inches. For screen resolution, if consumers are looking to find a good phone at a decent cost, there are a lot of great affordable options for full and quad HD phones. And then jumping into some general analysis, the top phone brands include Apple, Google, and Samsung. All of these phone brands also have low and high budget phone options, averaging about $500 and $1,000 respectively. Consumers that are worried they might not find a phone at their price point, we can see that there are actually a lot of phones in the market that fall into each category of low, medium, and high. And then lastly, for operating systems, there are three different operating system categories: Android, Apple iOS, and EMUI that consumers can choose from. And the most common one here is Android 12. And for consumers who might not have high needs, we can see that the Apple iOS 15 is a great option. And then we can also see that Android 13 is a great option for high consumption users. Moving into our backend code and analysis. For this analysis, we used Python, and the packages used were Pandas, NumPy, Seaborn, and Matplotlib. For the data, because the data wasn't readily available, we manually created this for our analysis, and all phone specifications and information is from Best Buy's website. And now I can show some of our code that we used. So in this Jupyter notebook, we
So
can
you
see
you
all of our
created.
data.
I have one question. So you created this.
Yes.
How did you approach? How did you approach to create the data set? What features you
So
thought?
there was a lot of research
Uh,
that I did. I
yeah, yeah.
mainly wanted to focus on phones that were released in 2022, and I did a lot of research to see which brands came out with phones, and then I just went phone by phone to find all of the data that you can see on my
So
screen
did
here.
you also keep
I wanted to make sure that.
uh,
Mhm.
did you also keep in mind like the types of user that you are focusing, as you said, like gamers, content creator, that was your focus area in
Yeah, there were a lot of different categories that I focused into. So the first
okay.
one being price. So consumers, people are worried about finding a good affordable phone. So price was something that I was concerned about. So I wanted to find phones that fall into each different category. Similarly, for front facing and rear facing cameras, I thought of
So so
content creators, people who take a lot of pictures.
so
Um,
basically
so yeah.
you look for like you created a category of different pricing options like low, medium, and high, and then depending on the budget. So this was the one category that you created was budget, and others were based on the user consumption, like someone is gamer and someone is a content creator. Because a content creator, again, for a content creator, he might just be starting and looking for a low budget phone. So this presentation,
Mhm.
I mean, this your analysis might be useful to that user also. If I'm correct.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different sort of factors. So price is a big thing for people. So if they like taking pictures, if they want to create content but still be, affordable and buy a good phone that falls into their price point, then, I want to make sure that that's something they can do using this analysis. I broke down the price point from low, medium, and high, and you can see um, which phones have a great camera quality but are also, affordable for the user.
Okay, great, great. So now can you explain, like, that you created this data, then next step, how did you clean? What was your approach in cleaning the data?
Yeah, so after I created this data, I imported it to this notebook. The first thing that I did was I renamed all of the columns so they're easy to use. Initially, I had um, stuff like inches, ounces in the column name, so I updated that. So we can
Okay,
see the
okay,
updated columns here.
okay,
Next, my focus was to make sure that the data was clean. Since I created the data, I knew there are no null values, but I
okay.
wanted to make sure that the data types were consistent and that also um, all of the rows had stuff like for rating we had phones that were not yet rated. So kind of figuring out how to clean up that data to make sure everything is consistent.
So this is, yeah,
In
great.
order to combat that, I um, found all of the unique values to see, some of the outliers. So, like I said, for rating, all of them are, um, a float value, but we have one that's not reported. So, just stuff like that I wanted to focus on.
Okay, okay. So that's great.
And then Um, also, while doing this analysis, I created some new columns. So I created columns for foldable phones, which is something that came out this year. As we can see, there are 4 phones that are foldable. So I
Okay,
wanted a column that represented that.
okay,
Then I cleaned up the data. I replaced, like for rating the not reported, I changed that to zero point 0.0. I also updated some of the columns that had yes and no's to Boolean, so true and false. And
okay,
we can see here that now the data types match the columns. So rating and price are float, and then some of the screen size, height, width, etc. Those are also float values. Yeah, I also wanted to focus on making sure everything is easy to use and for creating charts and everything is
okay,
consistent, so that really the data cleaning really helped in terms of making all of these charts that we can see in the presentation.
okay,
And then lastly, I wanted to focus on some of the challenges that I faced, and that included first and foremost cleaning the data and making all of the columns consistent. And for this, I used unique to find all values for different columns and then determined how they should be updated.
okay,
My second challenge was creating clean charts with good descriptions. And for this one, I really researched on how to format labels, X and Y axis, and how to add legends where needed.
okay,
And then lastly, one of the biggest challenges that I faced was how to categorize data. So, for example, for price, I categorized them as low, medium, and high. And for this, I first created a function that would determine the category. And then second, I used apply to apply the function to the entire column.